Have you ever thought, is this just me when struggling to stay organized, start tasks, or manage time? For those of us over 50, these challenges might not be just aging. They could be ADHD hiding in plain sight for decades. I'm Jami Shapiro, host of Grandma Has ADHD, and I'm building a community where your experiences matter. Whether you're diagnosed, questioning, or simply curious, you're not alone. Our Facebook group is filled with vibrant, understanding people over 50 who share their stories, strategies, and yes, even their struggles, with plenty of laughter along the way. Ready to find your people? Join our growing Grandma Has ADHD Facebook community. Please like and subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen, and share it with someone who might need to hear they're not alone, because ADHD doesn't have an age limit, and neither does understanding yourself better. Together, we're changing the conversation about ADHD after 50. Come be part of the story. Hi, and welcome to the latest edition of Grandma Has ADHD. I am excited. I hate it that I always say excited because it's such an overused word by me, but it's true. And this person definitely merits excited to introduce you to my friend who also happens to be somebody that I work with in the senior industry in San Diego, Dan Sweiger. He is a very accomplished account executive, public speaker, community educator, and industry leader who co-owns and operates BrightStar Care of Carlsbad. It is California's top-rated home care agency. Alongside his wife, Susie, Dan is a healthcare industry leader who serves on the board of trustees for the Tri-City Hospital Foundation and the board of directors of the San Diego Dementia Consortium. Okay, and if I hadn't lost enough breath, he also supports the North County San Diego healthcare community through a wide range of industry groups, including Alzheimer's Association of San Diego, Parkinson's Association of San Diego, North County Parkinson's support groups, at City Council on Aging, San Diego Coalition for Compassionate Care, Veterans Association of North County.
We're running out of time.
More. He also leads community education workshops at the Carlsbad Senior Center. And I joke, Dan, because I see there's sort of two different ways to go when someone has ADHD. A bio that looks like this, it's like, where does he find the energy? And I have a theory on that. We'll talk about it. Or someone that really hasn't done a lot at all. And as I always share, when you meet one person with ADHD, you meet one person with ADHD. You did hear Dan's voice, so you are probably going to recognize that Dan is also not a grandma. But I invited him today because he's got such a great story that I wanted to share. And because, like me, also works with seniors and is wanting to bring this conversation to the public. So welcome, Dan.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
It is really nice to finally have you, and also trying to coordinate two schedules with ADHD. I wanted to share one thing before we go into the interview and your ADHD story, because I think your story's so good, I'm including it in my book. But what I have discovered, and you tell me if this is true for you, a lot of people with ADHD have imposter syndrome. And so we feel like we have to achieve to sort of validate who we are or what we're saying. Does that resonate for you?
I'm not sure, really. Maybe. There's certainly places where I feel like I have imposter syndrome. I wouldn't say it's an overarching thing. I don't know why. I'm not really driven to achieve. I'm just interested in a lot of things and just try to get involved and help where I can.
Okay. Well, did you know that people with ADHD also have a strong sense of justice, of social justice?
Oh, that resonates.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Going through ADHD coaching, all these little things that I've been able to put together, it's been like eye-opening. And again, I've always really liked Dan, and I have found personally that I gravitate towards other people who have ADHD because we just, like, Dan and I go right into real conversation.
Yeah,
we do not keep it. We do not do the small talk, which I can't. And I think you also have said you don't like it either. Am I right?
I'm very uncomfortable with small talk. I mean, I do it because that's what people want, but I'd just as soon dive right into it. Yeah, what are we here to talk about? Let's get on with it.
Yep. So I want to hear your ADHD. I want to share your ADHD story. No one better to share it than you. So how did you find out you had ADHD?
So yeah, this is where our conversation started too. When I was telling you the story, So about 10 or 15 years ago now, I was 100% convinced that I had early onset Alzheimer's. My wife and I were terrified. We checked every single box there was. When you go to the website, what are the symptoms? I checked every symptoms for Alzheimer's. The only one I didn't check was leaving the keys in the fridge. Everything else was like, oh my God, I have it. Oh my God. So we did the
So
full day. Go
tell
ahead.
me what the symptoms were so that our audience can hear
Oh,
this.
okay. Yeah. Forgetting things a lot, having to be reminded a lot, problems with word finding, forgetting people's names that I knew well, just all that kind of stuff. My wife, it would drive her crazy. I'd ask her what's for dinner 5 times a day. And each time I'd never asked it before. And so it was just stuff like that. So we did the full day neuropsych workup, fully expecting to come back with a dementia diagnosis. And they came back and said, no, actually, you have ADD. I don't use the H. I don't really have the hyper part of it, but he basically said, yeah, and you probably had this your whole life, but when you were younger, you just had more energy in general. So you had more energy to put into your brain to kind of mask a lot of these things so that you didn't even realize it. But as I got older, he's like, it surfaced more and more and more. So that was a huge relief to find out that it was ADD, not dementia. And we could name it now. We can try to understand it. Now we can get medications, start to make life a little bit more livable again.
And I think I've asked you this, but I don't remember it. If you can share it with the audience, do you now look back and see anything as a child where you may have had ADHD that you just didn't recognize it?
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, I've always been a major multitasker, which I thought it's your superpower with ADHD. But then that's all it was, a superpower. I could be sitting in class, fully listening to the teacher and engaged while reading something else and thinking about something else, flipping from subject to subject to subject, which is how I ended up with a career in marketing, because marketing is something different every 5 minutes coming at you, which just played right into that superpower.
Sure. Yeah. And I will say that I have heard that multitasking is actually not really good for us, that we really should focus on one task at a time, and we probably do it better generally. So I just want to kind of put that out there as people
Well,
are
and I
listening.
think as I've gotten older, that's pretty much, I call it serial multitasking, where I have to stop and give each thing its focus and try to stay organized with a list or whatever of the things I need to get to. It's not as easy to flip from one thing to the other like it was when I was much younger.
Right, for sure. I mean, definitely. And that's one of the things of ADHD is it's compounded as we age. I mean, as is other things. So tell me about your family, because we've talked about it's heritable. And I know that I believe you have at least one child with ADHD, but tell me about your family looking back. Do you think maybe now you see that you might have had a parent with ADHD or a grandparent with ADHD?
That's the weird part. I really don't see it. Definitely not my mom. I don't think my dad, he was capable of doing a lot of things. He's a pretty smart guy. Looking back,
That
I don't see the symptoms
that's
there or anything.
That's a misconception because intelligence and attention, they have nothing to do with each other.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like he was a pretty smart guy. So I don't
Right.
necessarily see ADHD
And that's
in
it felt
him.
like so many people who had ADHD flew under the radar and like didn't even get diagnosed to like medical school or grad school because they
Right.
were so bright. It wasn't until they got to a point that they couldn't just wing it on being bright. So when I hear a misconception, I want to like debunk.
Oh, go for it. Yeah. Well, so my sister has a son that was diagnosed with ADHD, and that I have 2 daughters, one of which was diagnosed with ADHD, and it hit her earlier in sort of like mid high school into college, to where she kind of needed some accommodations for it. So thank God we got the diagnosis, because we got her on some medication that actually helped her. She went from straight A's to struggling to keep up in school. And then once we got her diagnosed, medicated, and she got a few accommodations, she got right back into straight A's again. But it was accepting that, getting the diagnosis, and then finding out what we can do about it that helped get her life back on track. Now, my poor wife, my youngest daughter, who was diagnosed with ADHD, has graduated college. She's thinking about grad school, but she's back staying with us for a year or two and saving her money. And so my wife is in a house with 2 people with pretty significant ADHD.
Yeah. Dan, I'm going to take a pause with you for a minute. I'm having some technical issues and we'll come
Okay.
back. Hey there, amazing listeners. Get ready because something incredible is coming your way. And trust me, You're not going to want to miss this. I am thrilled to announce my very first virtual book signing event for This Explains So Much. And here is the best part. I'm not doing this alone. I'll be joined by someone extra special, my mom, Vicki Armel. That's right, it's going to be a family affair, and we're going to have an absolute blast. Mark your calendars, because This Explains So Much will be available for purchase on Amazon starting October 1st, just in time for ADHD Awareness Month. That gives you plenty of time to dive into the pages, absorb all those aha moments, and come ready for our interactive book club discussion. Whether you're sipping your afternoon coffee on the West Coast at 4 p.m. or settling in with your evening tea on the East Coast at 7 p.m., we've got you covered. We will be live on Sunday, October 26th. This isn't just any book signing. It's your chance to connect with me and my mom, ask questions, share your thoughts, and be part of a community that gets it. Because honestly, this really does explain so much, and I can't wait to explore it all with you. So grab your copy on October 1st, start reading, and get ready for an incredible virtual experience on October 26th. Trust me, you belong here, and we can't wait to see your faces on screen. Until then, keep being awesome, and remember, the best stories are the ones we discover together. See you October 26th. Ever wondered why helping a loved one declutter feels like speaking different languages? I did, especially with my mom. It wasn't until I founded Silver Linings Transitions, helping San Diego seniors organize and move for over a decade, that I discovered why. We all experience clutter differently. And for those of us with ADHD, it's a whole other world. If you are listening in the San Diego area and feeling stuck with moving, paperwork, photos, or home organization, our team at Silver Linings Transitions gets it. We understand ADHD's unique challenges, and we won't just help you get organized. We'll create sustainable systems that finally stick. Schedule a consultation with our team today at 760-522-1624. That's 760-522-1624, or find us at silverliningstransitions.com. So we just took a pause in our interview with Dan Sweiger, the owner of BrightStar Home Care in Carlsbad, California. We had technical issues, and so you will probably notice that you'll see, if you're watching this video, you'll see a change of scenery. And if you've ever seen this virtual background, it looks like everybody's in this really nice, organized house with this beautiful, see, here's me losing a word. What's that kind of piano called? Yeah, so I couldn't think of it. There's ADHD in action. And it was funny because when Dan was trying to figure out if he wanted to use a virtual background, that was one of the backgrounds that you put up as well. And I said, no, Dan, just keep it real. Well, I'm in my 17-year-old daughter's room because she has the best Wi-Fi in the house, even though we just had this whole Eero thing put in. So I did put a virtual background on because you don't need to see my daughter's ADHD. Mine is fine, but I do want to go back. So I had just asked Dan to share whether he saw it in his family, and you'd said no, you hadn't seen it, but that you have nieces and nephews and or something like that, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't see it in my parents or grandparents, but I definitely have it. My youngest daughter has it, and my sister, a son that was diagnosed with it too. So there definitely is some in the family.
Yeah.
Not sure if I'm just missing the signals in earlier generations or
Let
what.
me ask you a question. Did anybody smoke?
Yes. Well, both my parents smoked early on. My dad quit. My mom and most of really smoked like a chimney. I was inundated with smoke everywhere I went.
There's a thought that nicotine actually calms us down. And so a lot of people were self-medicating with cigarettes. So very possibly that she was smoking to calm herself down, which is why we also didn't see it. And then there's also that we weren't in front of screens all the time. We were actually having to be a little more active. But I'm starting to ask people who saw smoking in their families, which I know was very common when after World War I, because they were giving cigarettes to soldiers to sort of help them calm their nerves.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. Well, I also really like that you own a home care company. And I do want to congratulate you because to be number one in California, there are a lot of home care companies. And so kudos to you. And I would love to hear a little bit about that. But I don't think that's what our audiences want to hear about. I think what would be really good would be for you to share sort of how you're seeing now that you're paying attention to ADHD, how you're seeing it with some of the clients that you're serving. And so we'll start with that.
So yeah, I mean, BrightStar Care of Carlsbad has the highest customer satisfaction of any home care agency in the state of California. My wife and I set out to have the highest quality care for people because people deserve that. And so that's what we set out to do. We've got an incredible team. I don't really have a lot to do with it other than I get to go on things like this and take credit, which is great. But we have people that are really engaged and really care. Thank God my wife doesn't have it because she's the steady rudder in the water that kind of keeps us all focused and on an even keel. And I'm in the field a lot, dealing with a lot of different people. I think I have bumped into people probably multiple times where they, oh, well, dad has dementia. And I have said, are you sure? Have you thought about his symptoms are kind of similar sometimes with early onset dementia and ADHD. So have you talked to somebody to make sure that's really what's going on? I bump into it from time to time where I've noticed enough where I brought it up.
Good. I'm glad that you are spreading awareness, and especially when it is running in families, it's very, very possible. And in fact, from the last statistic that I heard was that only 1 in 5 memory care clinics are even asking questions around ADHD, and yet the symptoms are so similar. That's another reason we need to raise awareness, and I'm definitely seeing more and more of it. So, how do you think that somebody with ADHD is going to benefit or from bringing in home care? And I will also say, not just that the person who's receiving care, but the family also benefits as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think home care comes into play when someone needs assistance with their activities of daily living. And that can be physical activities like getting dressed or taking baths or making meals or things like that. It can also be companion care is what we call it. And that's cognitive stimulation. It's socialization. It can be outings, doing hobbies together. All those things that I think are important for all of us to keep our brains active, engaged, and sharp. I think it's good for all of us, including those of us with ADHD. So I think home care can definitely benefit people in certain situations. With ADHD, what the diagnosis and sort of just going, okay, this is part of who I am, accepting that has made a big difference. I was spending most of my life trying to cover up on what I would call brain farts, like not remembering the name of baby Grand, constantly covering that stuff up and embarrassed about it and not wanting anyone to see because I didn't want to be judged. And I was in a corporate job where I was worried about my career being hurt by that. And I have run into people that just couldn't reconcile. You're a smart person. You just couldn't think of a common word at that moment, or you couldn't remember something you should have remembered. There were people I ran into that just couldn't reconcile that. So being able to say, no, I actually have a real issue here. I just need your patience, help to facilitate those conversations. And it felt like a huge weight was lifted for me, honestly, to be able to just say, look, I'm not a dumb person. I think I'm like all these things. I simply have this and word finding or remembering things and it's allowed me to basically say to people all the time, feel free to remind me. You won't offend me. Remind me all you want. You won't be nagging me. In fact, I appreciate the reminders.
Yeah.
And so I'm enabling other people to make sure that I don't forget things that they need too.
Yeah, that is great. I learned about masking actually years after I learned what ADHD was. And masking is when we do kind of compensate for something when we don't want somebody to get it and we like hold it together. And like an example, before I started sharing that I had ADHD or even realizing its impact, if I couldn't think of a word, I would say I need to take a sip of water. And then I would like take maybe a longer sip of water and then hopefully come back to it. And it didn't always work, but there is so much freedom in just being who we are. And I remember, Dan, for ADHD Awareness Month last year in October, I had special business cards made to give to people when I network, because you've seen me, like someone walks up to me and I'm like, I have no idea who you are, but they know enthusiastically they're bringing me. And I'm like,
Well, I live that every day too.
right. And so I had the business card and it said, we may not remember your name. And you actually took it home, I think, to show to Susie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah. So, I never really plan the entire conversation, because like that's another one of the wonderful traits of ADHD, is that we're able to connect so many things and we're really able to think quickly on our feet. And so I liked when you shared, you kind of went back to my not being able to find the word for the piano and how that impacted you in your career. What do you think might also be some tips for seniors, or, as again, although I know 50 and over is not seniors, because I am 55 hosting a podcast, we're just, why it's ground.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I'd say is that you can request a neuropsych workup. You just request it through your doctor and you go down, they'll put you through a bunch of testing to find out, again, whether is it dementia, is it ADHD, whatever. To me, that was the first step and an important one to understand. Now I know what I'm dealing with. And then I think I've learned over time, I've learned a few things from you too. I mean, I'm always learning, but different ways to deal with it. It's really been freeing to get over the embarrassment of it and be able to say it in a minute. Yeah, I forget stuff sometimes. Sometimes I can't think of words. It's okay. And nobody really cares when you mention that. So they're like, okay, cool. So then you don't have to be afraid
Ew, I
of
like,
brain
me
fart.
too.
I know, right? Well, that's happened a lot to us. Where people are like, oh yeah, me too. But yeah, just, I think, let go of that embarrassment. You feel like it's a stigma. You feel like it's something wrong with you. Once you accept it, it's just, you're so much more free. Your stress level is down and you find out all the people around you, once they know what the deal is, it's not hard for them to go, oh yeah, that was one of those things, wasn't it? Okay. And it doesn't have to be the end of the world. Like before I had the diagnosis in my corporate job, I was in constant terror of not being able to remember things I should remember and being embarrassed by it. I'm still a little bit intimidated in networking and social situations, because with that many people in the room, there's going to be some people that I should know their name and it won't come at that moment. But the people that know, it's no big deal. And the more they'll know, the better. So I think it's another tip. Just feel free to talk about it. Once you get comfortable with it,
Yep.
hey, this is what I deal with. Kind of funny sometimes. If you look at it from a certain angle, it's kind of funny that you couldn't think of the word piano. That's like, that's charming.
Feels like a leading home care company that's ranked #1 in California, but you can't think of the word piano, right? I think that's also really important, is when you do educate. And that's why I used to also be really embarrassed. And I'd go then, I'd be like, I am so sorry, my ADHD is showing. And then I'll give it an opportunity to say, it is not a reflection on you. It is just like, if I am thinking of something else at the time, and then they'll walk away and I'll be like, oh, I know exactly.
It always comes later.
Yeah, not always, not always. I find, and I say this, that I need to have a significant conversation with somebody, and then I will remember where we were standing, what the conversation was about, and little details. And I've heard Kathleen Nadeau refer to ADHD as having a Swiss cheese memory, because you have these like really strong memories, and then you can't remember, like, I can't tell you what I had for lunch yesterday, and I'm not even kidding, you know what I mean?
It feels like my memory is just a pile of dirty clothes. Like, it's all in there, but trying to find the right shirt at the right moment doesn't always happen, because I don't always have access to it at that moment, but it's there. So lots of reminders. I guess I didn't even think of it because it's become so common in my life. I don't put things in files in drawers, because then I might forget they exist.
Right.
So let's see if I can show it. Like, my files are all sitting on my desk.
Yeah.
It's out where I can see it, where I have that constant reminder. I put everything on my calendar to remind me to do things. Set reminders on your watch, write down lists of things. I surround myself with reminders and reminders on reminders. One of the things I learned this through talking with you, and it just, again, you said someone with ADHD only knows 2 times, now and not now. And man, did that resonate. Because yeah, if it's now, I can focus, I can nail it. But if I don't do it right now, and I don't write it down, put a reminder, do something, there's a very good chance I'm going to forget to get back to it.
I was also going to say, it's also what your priority is in that moment. So if I am working on something and that's my now, and you want me to do something else, I'm going to have a really hard time switching tasks, right? Or getting away from that. And also, to your point, if I don't finish it, or if I don't add it to my calendar, if I don't set the timer, it's gone. I'm going to lose it.
Yep.
So I would go ahead.
It's been a strength, yeah, to focus on things too. Yeah. And that resonates too. It's sometimes you're so focused, it's hard to just get out of it. But in my early days of my career, we had an intern that thought I hated him because he'd come into my cube and I'd be like head down, really cranking on something. And he'd knock. I'd be just like, hang on a sec. I really got to finish this thought because I won't be able to remember. But what he interpreted on was basically like, go away. I don't want to talk to you. And all I cared about was typing my thing. And again, at that time, I didn't have a diagnosis. I was just like,
Right.
no, sorry. I just tried to finish a thought. Didn't mean, but so didn't have a basis for much of a conversation with that. But yeah, and my daughter that has it, like in school, she will get really into a subject. I mean, really into it and want to know everything about it, which that's great intellectual curiosity. But yeah, we still laugh about, God, what grade was it? Like third or fourth grade when they learned about the Wampanoag Indians. We still laugh, make fun of her. Like, remember the Wampanoags? You spent like a month and all you wanted to know is everything there was to know about.
Yeah. My child that was diagnosed, the one that I discovered that I had ADHD, started reading the Harry Potter series in first grade and read it through to completion like 32 times. And I would say, Will, there were other books. There are other things you could be learning. Nope. I mean, everything was Harry Potter. So as you have heard me jokingly say, ADHD has become my Wampanoag. And you can also see where ADHD would impact aging. For instance, like medication management. I struggle to remember if I have to take more than one thing. I can't even imagine a lot of the clients that you work with. Is that, how do you implement any of this now that you sort of with medication management or reminders or.
I think med reminders is a very typical and a very common thing we help people with all the time. And whether it's ADHD or not, sometimes as we get older, we're taking a lot of different pills and it's hard to keep them straight. We have, even though we're non-medical support, we have a registered nurse who is a case manager. And she frequently, when we're starting cases, helps people reconcile the medication. They've got 3 of the same blood pressure medication, and they're not really sure at this point which one is the one they're supposed to be taking. So it's not uncommon for us to try to help people untangle that to make sure they're taking the right things at the right time. And if we always recommend med boxes, of course, you have what pills, at what time, at what day, and we can send someone to fill those boxes if they're not comfortable doing it themselves. And we have some clients where we keep a log where the family wants to make sure. So we write down what meds they took at what time to make sure that there was that consistency there and that the family could keep an eye on it. So
Sure.
can all of those things.
Yeah. Can you see other areas where having a home care company would be good for somebody who does have ADHD, a senior that has ADHD?
Yeah, we picked up a client not that long ago. Her husband had passed, unfortunately. So that was a complicating factor. She was obviously very depressed. It was a tough time for her. But I think she probably had some ADHD and it exacerbated it. She just couldn't process her mail, her bills. She literally showed this big coffee table, probably piled up about that high with mail that was all unopened because she just couldn't bring herself to do it. And a number of other activities in her daily life that she just had trouble with. So just having a caregiver there, just say, come on, let's go through some of these bills now. Let's get this organized and just kind of pull her through some of the stuff that I think her with ADHD plus depression was making. There's things you're really interested in, you really want to get into, and there's things you really aren't interested in. I think it exacerbated that. So just helping her get through that pile of bills and things and make sure she wasn't missing important payments. So yeah, stuff like that. And we all that all the time.
Yeah. Body doubling for sure is something that if people with ADHD benefit from. We need that other person. I actually just realized that this thing that I have been doing for years was actually probably an ADHD thing. So when I have a lot that I have to do and I'm just overwhelmed and I don't know where to begin, and that's one of the things that we struggle with is taking on a big task, knowing when to begin it, prioritizing the order. So that's executive functioning. I actually do sock matching, which it's mindless, right? I have a sock monster that lives in my house. And so socks and a dog that likes to take socks, in fairness. Plus my kids have divorced parents. And I don't know if you know this, but like this generation of kids, they'll go out the door without matching socks, right? But my socks have to match. So anyway, when I realized this just last week when I was talking to somebody, that my sort of like thing that I do if I don't want to do anything else and I just need to do something that makes me feel productive is to match socks. And I'm actually including that in my presentation. But there's a term I've heard called procrastinating when you were like anything else but the thing you have to do. And I definitely think that I could see where having a home care person in your home and helping you kind of do those things that you're having a hard time starting with. So, first of all, I'm going to go ahead and ask, well, how did you become the number one home care? I have that curiosity. I wanted to put it off, but I'm like, I got to know. Even if the audience
Mm.
could care less, I want to know. Yeah.
The secret sauce is not as technical or complicated or anything like that. My wife and I got into this business to help people, not to get rich. We're not a charity, got to pay our bills, we got to charge, but that's not how we focus our business decisions. And the biggest thing for us is we're very, very, very particular about the caregivers we hire. In 2024, we hired 0.7% of all of our applicants. And the big thing we're looking for isn't years of experience or anything like that. We only hire people this is not just a job, it's a calling. That there's a reason they're doing this job, and it's not just to get their paycheck and go home. Maybe they took care of a loved one, or it's in their family. Lots of people are in this industry or whatever. So we only hire people that care, because a caregiver is going to go to a vulnerable person's home and we can't be there to supervise, right? Not on a daily, we can check in and things like that, but we're not there to watch it every day. So how do you make sure they're really doing the job and they're really doing a great job at it? You only hire people. That's why they're there, is because they want to make a difference for people. And so it's hard to find those in this world. So we pass on a lot of people with really good experience and all of that. But if they don't show that drive, that passion for what they do, then we pass. And obviously we manage well and all those kinds of things. We communicate really well. But honestly, the biggest secret sauce is just hiring those people and only those people. And that's both who we hire to work in our office, as well as who we hire for caregivers and nurses, like the entire company. That is the one thing that is the common thread for all of us, is every single one of us is here for more than just a paycheck. And then the rest sort of kind of takes care of itself.
Right. I love that. That's amazing. Okay. So I always like to ask my guests, if you could turn a button off, that would mean that you never had ADHD, you never had it, you're not going to develop it, you just got to turn the on off button. Would you have opted to turn off that ADHD?
Great question. I think probably not. It's been a superpower. It's allowed me to do some pretty great things and accomplish a lot. I wish I would have known more about it a lot sooner. Although when I was a kid, I don't know, that it just had the stigma. Diagnosing it wasn't necessarily what it is today in terms of how it opens doors for you. But I would love to have understood it more earlier. Could have saved me some heartaches and a lot of stress, but I don't know. I don't think I'd be me without it. So I don't think I'd turn it off.
I love that answer. Okay, so let me ask you this other question then. So for people who are discovering it late in life, and how old were you when you were diagnosed?
Mid 40s.
Okay, me too. So for people who are discovering it late in life, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, I heard of a man who found out at 80, and at 87, he said that the last 7 years had been the best of his life. What would you say to somebody who is looking back on their life and realizing, because it meets with grief and relief, what would your advice be to live the best possible life they can live from here on?
Oh, that's easy. Embrace it. Don't be embarrassed by it. Don't try to keep a secret of it. Let people in your life know what's going on. So then when you do have those little brain farts or can't remember something that people didn't know, they might have been shocked that you couldn't remember that. But if they know, they're like, oh, okay, no big deal. So to me, it was just embrace it and let people know and let them in on it. And I don't know, life's just much better that way. Just so much less stress, so much less worry of embarrassment, all of that.
That is a great answer. Embrace it. Let them in. Yeah. Okay. Well, how can people find you? Obviously, you only work in San Diego. So let people know who are in San Diego listening how they can get in touch with you.
Sure. Well, and for a national audience, BrightStar is a national franchise that operates in 41 states. So if there's population, there's probably a BrightStar in your area. You just go to brightstarcare.com. If you want to get to our office specifically, you just add a /Carlsbad on the end of it, and that gets you to a website and all the information and how to get a hold of us. Easy peasy.
Awesome. So I don't know about you, but whenever I do an interview or I'm in a conversation and I walk away, I'm like, I should have said that. Why didn't I say that? Is there any last lingering, I should have said that? Or I'm not going to feel complete unless this question is asked.
No, but I will finish with this thought that I'm really grateful for what you're doing, Jami. You're really onto something here. It's not just about ADHD, but there's just not enough understanding and awareness and research and all of that for ADHD in older years. And there's more attention needed on it. So I really appreciate all you're doing to bring attention to this.
I appreciate that. And I also want to say this when people say, well, why does it matter? To me, that's just also goes to our society and our whole anti-aging. Why does it matter? So you're saying that because somebody is 70 or 80 years old, they don't deserve to live the best possible life that they can. And when we say anti-aging, I'm like, well, I want to age because anti-aging means I'm in the ground, right? And
Yeah.
so as a society, we really need to do a better job of embracing aging and also destigmatizing that because that's really what we should want. That's like the hallmark of success. Like I've lived a long enough life that I'm still here. I've made good choices. And so anyway, I could go on my soapbox, but I'm going to totally ADHD on you. Can you hear that my lawn guy just started downstairs?
A little bit. It's not that
Okay.
bad, but I can hear it in the background a little bit.
Well, and then you know what happens when you have ADHD, then you're super distracted because you've got this, right? I'm trying to focus on our company and then I have the squirrel. Anyway, thank you so much, Dan. Thank you for being my friend. I also want to just out you. Dan gives me the best hugs. We like this fake now because so many people give the side hug, the like, pat, pat, pat. That is so not genuine. Dan and I will go in for the hug. Don't worry, Susie and Brian. Nothing
Bring
is
it in
going
for the real thing.
yeah, but we just like hug with intention. And it's like, I want to be hugging you and I want to acknowledge that we do that. That's like our thing. And I don't know if you do that with everybody, but I certainly appreciate the way that you.
I tell you, I do like to hug people, but I also don't want to be that creepy guy that's running around going, hey, how to give you a hug. So I kind of try to read each person and try to read their body language. And if they don't look like they're up for it, I don't try. Or so I have a lot of people kind of try to gauge it. Some people I do give the side hug because that's kind of what they're comfortable with. Some people are going for the real thing, and some people it's more of a hi, how you doing?
Okay. All right. Well, I'm not as special as I thought I was. Thanks, Dan. Anyway,
You're the only one. I'll be honest with you, you're the only one that really wants to go in for like the whole hug. That's for sure.
good. Okay, then I get to be special. I need that. I've got my years of rejection sensitivity playing in there too. Well, thank you so much for finally joining me on the podcast. Thank you for listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed it, I hope that you will share it and that you will like it because that is the only way that I am going to be able to grow this audience, which is going to build attention because nobody will take you seriously unless you have like all of these likes and followers on your podcast. And the message that I am trying to get out is, as to Dan's point, it's really, really important that we continue to live the best life we possibly can. So thank you so much for joining and tune in for the next episode.
All right. Thanks, Jami.
Thank you. The opinions expressed on Grandma Has ADHD podcast are those of our guests and hosts and are intended for informational and entertainment purposes only. This podcast does not provide medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The content discussed in this episode is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician, mental health professional, or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or mental health concern. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or emergency services immediately. The hosts, guests, and producers of Grandma Has ADHD do not assume any liability for the content of this podcast. Listen at your own discretion.